Hey everyone, I don't even know where to start with this one. This is by far the creepiest thing I've ever lived through, and to be honest, I'm not sure if I'm ready to share it yet, but I need to get this off my chest. This is the story of how I discovered my stepfather isn't what he seems. It all began when I was 15. My mom had just remarried after years of being on her own, and for the first time in a while things seemed okay. Daniel, my new stepdad, was, at least on the surface, the perfect guy. He was attentive, kind, maybe a little too nice, but still, I didn't think much of it back then. I wanted to believe he was the right man for my mom, that we could finally be happy. It wasn't long before things started to feel off. It was small at first, little things, like catching him watching me from the corner of his eye, or hearing footsteps in the house long after everyone was supposed to be asleep. I convinced myself I was just being paranoid. Maybe I was just adjusting to having someone new in the house. But then, one night everything changed. I woke up to this strange sound, like whispering. It wasn't loud, but just enough to get under my skin. I thought maybe it was the wind or the house settling, normal stuff, but it wasn't. I got up and followed the sound. It was coming from the basement. Now, here's the thing. No one ever went into the basement at night. It was always locked. But that night, the door was cracked open. I remember my hand trembling as I pushed it a little further, just enough to peek inside. And there was Daniel, standing in the middle of the room talking to someone. The only problem? There was no one else there. That moment, God, I'll never forget it. I should have turned back. I should have gone straight to bed and pretended like I didn't see anything. But I couldn't. I was glued to the spot. I kept staring, trying to figure out who he was talking to. And then suddenly he stopped. It was like he knew I was watching. He turned around, and for a split second, I swear, his eyes weren't normal. They were darker, colder, like something else was looking out at me from behind them. My stomach dropped, and I bolted back to my room. I didn't sleep that night. I didn't even try. After that, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was seriously wrong. Daniel wasn't just some regular guy who loved my mom. He was hiding something, and it was worse than I ever imagined. I needed answers, so I did what any curious teenager would do. I snooped. My mom was out one night, and Daniel was asleep, or at least I thought he was. I went down to the basement, heart pounding, and started searching. At first, there was nothing out of the ordinary. Just old junk, boxes, tools. But then, I found it. Hidden in the back, buried under a pile of old clothes, was a trunk. It was locked, but I pried it open with a crowbar. Inside, there were photos of my dad. Photos taken long after he disappeared. And that's when I found the notebook. Pages filled with Daniel's handwriting, talking about stealing identities, feeding off people's souls, becoming someone else. My father's disappearance. It wasn't an accident. Daniel, or whatever he is, had something to do with it. My mind was racing, but I didn't have time to process it. I heard footsteps upstairs. Daniel was awake. I slammed the trunk shut and ran upstairs. I had to get out of the house. But Daniel was already waiting for me. He was standing at the top of the stairs, staring at me with those same lifeless eyes. Couldn't move, couldn't breathe.
You should have left things alone.
Felt like my blood turned to ice. I don't know how I managed to move, but somehow, I pushed past him and ran. My mom. She had no idea what was happening. She thought I was being dramatic, but I knew if I stayed, something horrible was going to happen. That was 3 years ago. I haven't been home since. I've tried telling my mom, but she's still with him. She thinks I'm crazy, or maybe she's too deep into his web to see the truth. I don't know. All I know is that Daniel isn't human. He's something else. Something that took my father, and now he's trying to replace me too. Sometimes, late at night, I still hear those whispers. I still feel like he's watching me, waiting for me to slip up. But I won't let him. I can't. I don't expect everyone to believe me. I'm not sure I'd believe it if it didn't happen to me. But if you ever feel like someone close to you isn't who they say they are, don't ignore that feeling. Trust your instincts, because sometimes the people we think we know are hiding something far darker. Thanks for listening. If you want to hear more of my stories, hit that like button, subscribe, and maybe share your own experiences in the comments. Until next time, stay safe and watch your back.